On today's video, we're going to eliminate these crazy loops that we've been casting off of our spinning reels. Hey there outdoor YouTubers, it's Dave Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. And hey, if you guys use spinning gear, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're fishing, you're casting your jig, you're casting your crankbait along, everything's going fine. And then just kind of out of nowhere, all of a sudden you go to cast and this like 3-foot long snarl, this big 3-foot long loop comes puking off of your spool. And it's like, what the heck? Where did that come from? You know? And, you know, sometimes it gets knotted up and sometimes it's a big pain in the butt to straighten out, right? Of course, it's slowing you up from fishing, so that's never a good deal. But today I'm going to show you guys kind of how to eliminate that from happening. So where are these crazy loops coming from, right? That's the question. Well, what's happening is we're out fishing, we make a cast, line comes off the spool, and then a lot of guys will just kind of reel the reel to close the bail, you know? Which is fine. Most of the time, that's fine. But you got to pay attention because you had that slack line, you can get a little loop will form on your spool, right? You guys have seen that, right? You get this little loop. You don't think too much of it sometimes, but what happens is, now you got this little loop, you reel your bait back in or your lure back in, and then the next time you go to cast, that line comes off your spool, and it'll grab that little loop sometimes. Not all the time, right? I know we've all gotten away with it too, right? You get a little loop, you cast out, oh hey, no problem, you know, you don't think nothing of it. But sometimes it'll grab that loop and that's where you get that kind of that 3-foot mess that comes off the end of your spool. That's what's happening. We're closing the bail with slack line and we get that little loop in the spool. So, you know, how do we eliminate that? Well, what I like to do is I actually close the bail by hand. You don't have to, it doesn't matter, but I just like to close the bail by hand, and then I take the line and I just kind of pull it tight, pull it straight away from the spool like that. And I just take a quick glance down maybe to make sure there's no loops in the line, and then I reel the bait or lure back in. And I'll tell you what, that really takes care of the problem. You make sure you don't have loops on that spool, you're not going to have that 3-foot big loop come puking off, right? And you know, another thing that you kind of got to watch for that really makes more loops on your line is if you got a lot of line twists, right? If you're fishing with some kind of inline spinner or crawler harness, something that causes twists in your line, and maybe you don't really have the right swivel type hardware or the right sinkers to eliminate that. And this is another thing you guys have seen, right? You got a bunch of twists in your line. If you give that line slack, it just kind of coils right up on itself, right? So that's another thing. If you've got a lot of line twists and you're closing your bail with slack line, you're really asking for trouble. You're really asking for loops, and you're really asking for that big 3-foot, 4-foot long mess to come off your spool on a cast. So like I say, just pay attention to your spool. Make sure there's no little loops. If you see one, get it out of there right away, you know. So, and again, like what's really worked for me, I just hand close the bail and pull the line away. Make sure there's no loops and start reeling in. That really eliminates all those messes, all those problems. So hey guys, remember this: hunt, fish, laugh, repeat. This is Dave Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. Hey, thanks for watching and God bless.